And you're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the October 24th Joint Committee on Pensions. I'm Senator Michael Jackson, District 27, co-chair with Delegate Catherine Forbes, who will speak shortly. I'd like to give opening remarks regarding today's session. We thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule. It's always important to ensure that we are taking every measure we can to ensure that our employees, our aspiring employees, and our employees who are looking to enjoy a peaceful retirement can also enjoy a blissful retirement. So there's a presentation for us today from our retirement plan board members, and we look forward to learning more as we proceed. Last year, the committees heard Senate Bill 6, and from that Senate bill presentation, there were a number of questions. Out of that also came a study, which we're going to hear about today. At the conclusion of the presentations of the overall plan, as well as the enrollment study, there will be a discussion session. However, members, if there is a moment that you need to interject, please raise your hand. Use the hand raise feature. We will recognize you, and we will get your question or your comment answered. But if at all possible, if we can absorb our plan. We've been off for a little bit. We're getting ready to go back into session, and we certainly want to hear the study materials. And lastly, I'll say this before I hand it over. At the end, Philip will give us next steps, which includes meeting dates and other matters associated with this. Thanks for having the plan, folks, on the call with us today. We look forward to hearing from the chair of the plan, the Honorable Eloise Foster, Ms. Butler-Bell, and Ms. Roberts. So I'll hand it over to Delegate Forbes.
Thank you, Chair Jackson, and thank everyone for being here today. I'm Delegate Kathy Forbes, representing 43B in Baltimore County. This is my first meeting, and I'm thrilled to be here, and I appreciate all the work that went into the what you're going to present today, and thank you all for being here.
All right, thank you. Madam Chair, feel free to proceed. I believe you all are going to be sharing materials with us.
Okay. Senator Jackson, Delegate Forbes, and members of the Joint Committee on Pensions, good afternoon. For the record, I am Eloise Foster, and I'm the chair of the Maryland Supplemental Retirement Plans. With me, as the chair noted, on Zoom, are Rhonda Butler-Bell. Rhonda is our executive director, and she's also the board secretary for MSRP. And also joining us are Deborah Roberts. And Deborah is the deputy executive director, and she's our chief financial officer. And I'm just going to be clear from the beginning that these ladies are truly the backbone and the brains of the operation. As the members know, the supplemental retirement programs are really designed to supplement any income that a retiree receives from their pension and Social Security benefits. And unfortunately, for many state employees, those two sources of income are not sufficient to really maintain a comfortable lifestyle. This is really the first time that we've had an opportunity to appear before this committee. So first of all, let me just thank you for inviting us. Deborah is going to kick things off this afternoon. She's going to provide an overview of the various supplemental retirement plans that are available. And after Deborah makes her presentation as a follow-up to Senate Bill 6, Rhonda has really conducted extensive research, and she's prepared a study which explains the importance of adding an automatic enrollment feature to our supplemental plans. So she's going to follow up with a brief overview of her findings. And of course, we will be happy to answer any questions after that the members of the committee may have. Again, thank you for inviting us. Deborah, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think the PowerPoint presentation was sent to the committee, but I think you're going to put it up on your screen.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
My hope is you can see my screen before I start talking. Is that true? You can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very, very much. And as a word of note, Delegate Forbes and Senator Jackson, I want to say thank you very much. I've worked with the state of Maryland for 21 years, and this is my first time having the opportunity to shout out loud all of the wonderful things that I believe our organization is doing for state employees. So I'm very, very happy to be here and if possible, answer any questions that you might have. I'm presenting to you my presentation, and I want to just go over really at a high level and dig deeper as the committee deems appropriate. As you all know, we had the 4 plans, the 401k, which is the oldest, the 457, the 403B, and the 401A plan. Our 401k plan is the oldest and is second largest in terms of participants. We have about 31,000 participants, and 3,600 of those individuals are in payments, in the payout status, which means they're retired. But we have currently 14,000 individuals actively deferring. As of the printing of this document, 2.49 billion assets for this plan, which is the largest in terms of assets. Our contributions did decrease from one quarter to the next by 7%. And I'll talk a little bit about why that happens as I proceed through the presentation. Our 457, which is generally our default plan for new enrollees and would most certainly be the default if the auto enrollment is enacted. And it is the most flexible for our participants. And we all agree 457 is probably the best for our new participants. It is the largest in terms of participants, being 35,600. 18,400 of those individuals are actively deferring, with 3,400 currently in payout status. It has, as of June 30th, 2.19 billion in assets. And like 401k did experience a decrease in contributions of 7.5% in the previous quarter. I do want to mention also that our 403B, which is really for our higher education individuals, are the smallest of our plans, and it has about 147 individuals are in a payout status, with a total of 804 active participants, and 298 of those individuals are actively deferring. This is a small plan with 111 million in assets. Unlike the 401k, the 457, this particular plan did increase in contributions from the previous quarter, and which is quite important. It's 23% high, which is very, very positive for this very small plan. And finally, our match plan, which had been in suspension for a better part of 15 years. And as of July the 1st of 2023, we have now our match reinstated at $600 maximum per eligible employee. The plan has 37,800 participants, 3,200 are in payout status. As of the printing of this report, 230 million in assets, with 9,825,000 in contributions. And these contributions are a result of the match plan being reinstated, which is very, very positive for state employees. A little bit about the reinstatement. I want to say thank you on behalf of every participant that I've met and others that are met by our staff. As a result of the reinstatement, our plans enrolled 13,000 new individuals, which is huge when you're talking from the July 1 up until September. And the 23,000 re-enrolled. The re-enrollments are those individuals who were a part of the plans, but then now reactivated and now participating. The match contributions during this short time frame has exceeded $9 million. Good news about the implementation process, which I think everyone was concerned about. It's been 15 years since this plan has been active, and 15 years is over a decade, almost 2 decades, and we were concerned about the implementation process. And I am happy to note that the implementation process was very, very smooth. Contributions that were taken, or contributions made on behalf of participants, were in fact accurate. the amount was accurate, and the individuals who are eligible for that match did receive the match. And that's extraordinarily important information, as you know, being suspended for so long, anything could go wrong. And thankfully for all of us, working together with Nationwide and Central Payroll Bureau, we had no errors and things went pretty smoothly. I want to talk a little bit about fund performance. We have 4 plans in place, and fluctuations in the market values. We talk about that during our board meetings on a quarterly basis, but for us, I want to talk just about overall for the year. Our domestic and equity, 2022 was a very concerning year with high inflation and the Fed trying to combat that. So our equity, both international and domestic, did experience some trailing returns at 19.2 and 60% respectively. We also experienced, despite the changes in the Fed rate, our fixed income did decrease by 13%, but it did perform a little bit better, really much better as a result of the intervention by the federal government. The fixed income market slowed somewhat, but definitely did a lot better than our equity, international as well as domestic. We experienced in 2022 a very, very tight labor market. But at the end of the year, there was a small gain in the quarter of 7.2%. But as you can see, that 7.2 wasn't sufficient to cover that overall first 3 quarters of lagging returns. The Fed rate did increase over the year of 125 basis points, or 1.25%. And we do expect, and we have received some increases in the second quarter of 2023. And again, it's all about the Fed's trying to control inflation and continue the spending. The annual rate of return, again, when you look at these numbers, you might be a little concerned about the first year. This 13% decrease in our returns over the year is very much expected, given the volatility we experienced in the first 3 quarters of 2022. But the 3-year and 5-year, we do see some gains. It is just important to note that there are years, in this case, of some fluctuations, and it's not unusual to see some negative returns when you average out all of our funds within our options when compared to the indices and the benchmarks. Our asset allocation, before I talk about it, I want to just explain our plans are self-directed by our employees. The board directs and determines what fund they provide to participants, but it is the participants who select these options. So it's important to understand the asset allocation in that light when comparing why is it more fixed income. It does appear that our participants, generally speaking, are far more conservative in their approach in investing, and you'll see with that we have a good amount of our investments are going to be in cash equivalents of 19%, a little bit more in the target date, which is important. And there's a good number of individuals who prefer to be in stock and equity, and some in fixed income. The most important thing about asset allocation, that there are some changes that occurred throughout the year, and there are some changes year by year, but for the most part, these changes reflect the understanding and the preferences of our participants. Wanted to provide a very, very high level chart of our top 5 investments holdings within our plans. It's important to know that, again, participants choose what they believe is the best option. Generally speaking, participants have a preference model based on your do-it-yourself option, where they make their own decisions and they're based on their risk tolerance and their own retirement goals. They have another option of the target date as being their source of investing their funds, or they can use a managed account, which is our pro account, which they use a hired professional to help them manage or select the particular funds that they would choose in their lineup. And again, our investment lineup is available for all participants. All participants will be utilizing them, even with our managed account. And the 5 top investments will most certainly looks like it's the investment contract pool, our State Street, our Puritan, and our large cap William Blair with State Street mid cap following. And it shows really that how important for some of the participants that the conservative, which is our investment contract pool, which is a very fixed, it's a fixed income option, and it preserves the principal that they put in at the cost, if you will, of growth, where you would see that more in the equity section. So this is a very, very conservative model, and 20% of our participants are very comfortable with that. So it appears that 50% of our options are in the top 5 holdings as a whole, and then the other options are the other 50%. Fee structure. This particular area is, I guess, what we would normally talk about during our budget hearings. What do we charge? Why do we charge what we do? Generally, we have 2 fee structure items. One is our asset-based fee, and the other is our per account fee. The asset-based fee is as of today is 0.325 basis points, which is really 0.25% to all of our participants, with a cap of $2,000 in a quarter, a calendar year. We also provide a per account fee, which is 50 cents per account. And those accounts that are under $500 are generally exempt. These are the 2 fees that we've had over the years, which have provided the fee structure that supports the participants through our educational activities, our staffing, and also our investment advisory and audit costs that the organization pays to run the plans. We also consider fee holidays, which is a very important point, which we've discussed in previous budget hearings. Why do we have fee holidays, and how do they support participants? Well, the most important thing is if we can reduce fees to participants, we're going to do it. We're going to do what we can to charge as little as possible, to be as efficient in our operations as we possibly can. And fee holidays from time to time help us do that. Recently, the board approved a standing approval of a 4th quarter asset based fee holiday. It does not include the account-based fee, but it does include the asset-based fee. And that generally holds true, provided that we have a reserve that sufficiently covers our minimum operational expenses, but also the market conditions are consistent where it will not deplete too quickly our reserve balance. So with that, we will continually have fee holidays from time to time, and we'll make that decision based on market conditions and our reserve if the holiday for the final quarter of the year is appropriate. Now, this is an area that I think it's really true to my heart, and it's just something that I really want to talk about because it's so important, and that's our member services team. Our team meet with participants, I would say, almost daily through educational webinars, through one-on-one conversations, through other activities. And it's so important how they interact because they provide us with all of the information that we need to support them better. It comprises of our 4 retirement professionals, also 2 administrative staff. Because of the hard work, we have received numerous awards, some of which from NAGDA, some of them from pensions and investments. But our goal is to support through education all state employees on the benefits of retirement savings. We are a supplement, so much of our outreach is about telling individual participants who we are, what we do, and how the DC plans, or in this case, the 457 and 401k, support them. We've conducted many events, 194 in 2022, with a maximum of 13,000 individuals in attendance. This gives us a clue that individuals are very, very happy to meet with us. They're very interested in learning about how they can empower themselves to make decisions about their retirement, to be active, engaged in that process. Some of the webinars includes pre-retirement seminars, which we host. Well, we don't host, but we work alongside state retirement system and other organizations. We have our annual symposium, which is virtual. This format is extremely important, which we are currently going through right now. I think this is the 4th day of our symposium. and it's attended by thousands of individuals. 20 sessions are part of that. We collaborate with agencies like the Department of Budget and Management. We collaborate with the state retirement system. We work alongside other fund managers who participate, as well as the Social Security Administration, all of which to provide resources, education, talking with individuals to help them make those decisions. It's a collaboration of fund managers, agencies, and our plan administrator, all to support through education and outreach our state employees. And on this spreadsheet here, I just want to just give you an idea of the match that, the webinars that we have offered in the past 6 months, which include Catch the Match, Borrowing Against Your Retirement. And then these plans do allow for borrowing against your retirement. So it is our responsibility to ensure all participants understand the responsibilities and the consequences of default and other consequences that relate specifically to borrowing from your retirement. We also talk about understanding investing, countdown to retirement. And again, our job here is to ensure that we find, reach, communicate every state employee who's eligible to participate in the plans and help them with that retirement decision, give them information, educate them. And before I close, I do want to say that there are a fraction of individuals who attend these meetings, but their comments are so noted, and I want to make certain that I include this in my presentation. After every single presentation, we ask them, what do you think? What would you do? Or what would you like us to do that's different? And their comments have just been extremely helpful. Many have said that they were afraid to take, to follow up on retirement savings because they thought it was too much. They didn't understand. But because of the webinars, how easy they were to understand, how easy the format was to absorb, how helpful the staff as well as Nationwide has been to them, that they are extremely empowered to make those decisions. And I just wanted to make that clear how important our staff has been to supporting our state employees, empowering them, and the feedback truly does encourage us to continue this work. And I do want to just end with, there are a number of information that you can glean and look at on our website to about our annual reports that we publish every year, performance. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. But I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to talk to you just about MSRP and what we do and how invested we are in providing state employees with the most accurate information, the most informed choices to support them in this very serious part of their life, their retirement. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I am so happy to help you or answer your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Roberts. And this particular team of folks before you, we're honored to be the one who allows you, or who has allowed you the opportunity to present before us. Who knew? I don't think I even thought about that even when I was on the House side. So just know that we want to be your partners, and the more information or the more that we can be enlightened, the better off we can help serve our employees across our great state. So you're more than welcome. We'll continue to stay in touch with you. And do we have any questions from anyone? Delegate Metzer, is your hand up? Or are you just waving? Any questions from any of the members? Thank you very much for that in-depth overview of our plan. And I think it's worthwhile to know about the weekly seminars or webinars. I can tell you that the ability for folks to engage virtually has become huge. I think the General Assembly has learned that since COVID. So we're kind of coming around to meet the needs or to meet folks where they are. Thank you for explaining to us the fee structure, which our plan has been engaged in, and the reason for the methodology that you guys have been employed. So that's very important to us. if we have no questions, we're going to move to our next segment. We now have another senator has joined us, Senator Benson as well. Welcome. So we're going to move to the next section. If there are no questions regarding the overview of the plan.
Senator
Chair?
Jackson. So next up is Rhonda Butler Bell. And as you indicated, last session, there was a bill that was introduced in the Senate to put into place an automatic enrollment feature on our supplemental programs. The bill did not pass, but part of the bill requirement was that we conduct a study and find out what was going on throughout the country. And so Rhonda has taken that challenge on. She has done an extensive study, did extensive research, and so she's prepared. We've included a very detailed document that summarizes everything that she did. I think in addition, she has prepared another document that hits the highlights, but at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda so that she can give you a brief overview of her findings and, of course, tell you what we'd like to see as next steps. So, Rhonda?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Jackson and Delegate Forbes and members of the committee. Thank you so much for having us here today to speak on behalf of the Maryland Supplemental Retirement Plans. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here, and I so believe in auto enrollment. I'm also on the NAGDA board, so at a national level, I get to discuss defined contribution plans and what makes sense for public employees. As our chair said, we do have a study. There's a lot of pages and there's tons of research in there, but I want to share my screen because I did prepare a PowerPoint that we'll just go over some highlights. Can everyone see the screen?
I think you're good.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. All right. So with auto enrollment, it's important to note that this has been something that's been around in the industry since 2006. So it is not new. It is considered an industry best practice, and it has been widely used in the private sector since the Pension Protection Act of 2006 was passed. Maryland is actually one of 25 states that does not allow auto enrollment in any public sector plan. Two of the states that I did profile in the study are Texas and South Dakota.
Bless you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
Can we mute as we move along? I can see your actions, so I'll bless you anyway as we move along.
So Texas and South Dakota did pass auto enrollment in 2007 and 2008, respectively. So again, this is not a new practice. Maryland's employee participation rate in MSRP was 38% as of the second quarter of 2023. Some of the research findings that I did include in the study were about Social Security. Social Security and a pension are likely not going to be sufficient. One of the pieces of research I included in the study is from the Congressional Budget Office. They have projected that the Social Security trust funds will be depleted by 2033 and will make it necessary for them to begin paying out lower percentages than they should as of 2034. So, for example, in 2034, they anticipate paying 25% less than they should be paying. Vanguard Research did a research study in 2021 of over 800,000 auto-enrolled new hires, and they found that auto-enrollment triples the participation rates of new hires. After a 3-year period, the study found that 92% of auto-enrolled employees were still in the plans, while only 29% of voluntary enrollees were in the plans. Another study was conducted by Voya. This was of 163,000 employees, and this was done in 2022. This reported that Black and Latino employees with employers that use auto enrollment have rates of participation that are 2 to 3 times higher than their counterparts at employers that do not use automatic enrollment. There was another study conducted by Principal Retirement Research, and that was done in 2021. And that study determined that 84% of employees indicated that being automatically enrolled is the reason they began saving for retirement, and they would not have started as soon had they had to enroll on their own. So it's really good information. Some information that is specific to Maryland that I found out from the DBM annual EEO report, and this is for fiscal year 2022. 61% of state employees are female, and 52% of state employees are Black or other non-white ethnicities. State salaries are lower for women than men and are also lower for Black employees than white employees. On a national level, all of this information is in the study. I found that women make lower salaries than men, have lower net worth, and are less prepared to retire. Women are also more likely than men to take time away from work to care for family members, which lessens the amount they're able to contribute to their retirement savings and their Social Security accounts, which is very significant to note. Black and Latino employees make lower salaries than white employees, have lower net worth, and are less prepared to retire. They also have a higher probability of carrying various types of debt than white employees. They also, another thing not in here that I want to note is that they typically have much higher student loan debt than white employees. People of color are much more dependent upon Social Security for retirement income and are much less able to rely on family wealth transfers for future financial support. We generally, in Black and Brown communities and low-income communities, do not have trust funds, do not have huge life insurance payouts, do not have family members that are able to give us money for down payments on homes, for example. Additional.
I think you froze up on us for a second. While we're waiting for Ms. Bell to unfreeze, Madam Chair, Ms. Bell mentioned that, or you mentioned that in addition to this extensive report, that there was also a more narrow, specific bulleted information packet as well.
So the study really is a 15-page document that I think was sent to the staff.
Yes.
And this was a follow-up. This just kind of summarized our overall findings.
Okay.
But I think for us, the findings and the thing that we really have focused on is that for next year, we would like to come back out. We would like to reintroduce that bill. We would like to make auto enrollment almost mandatory for first-time employees. So if you're a new employee to the state, our proposal is that you would be automatically enrolled. Now, we've gotten some opposition to that, but the proposal goes a little bit further to say, if you're automatically enrolled and you don't want to be in the automatically enrolled, you would have up to 90 days to opt out. So we just found nationwide, when employees were auto-enrolled, for the most part, they continued to stay in the programs and they did not opt out. A very small percentage opted out.
Yes, ma'am. Again, while we're waiting, I think she'll be coming back in.
So I talked the whole time and didn't realize that I had lost everyone. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
No, you're good. I believe, if someone can help me, I believe you were talking about you've gotten beyond. You talked briefly about the Social Security matter, and then just after that, the next block you began to speak on. It's about the ability for folks in certain communities to have access to loans for homes. It was just after the Social Security matter.
Right.
So
I think you've gone through the Maryland and national data.
yes.
I got through that. Okay. I think it would have just been the eligibility then. So did I get through this slide with the Social Security and pension might not be enough?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So then the only thing left on the PowerPoint slides was just the effective date and eligibility. So if this legislation is passed, the effective date will be January of 2025. And actually January 1st, that's a typo. It should be January 1st, 2025. And it will be for all eligible state employees, and state employees eligibility is executive branch and the judicial branch, excluding judges, the legislative branch excluding the elected officials, and state higher education employing institutions. And there is an opt-out feature, which is 90 days from the first payroll deduction. The 90-day period is an industry standard, and it's not unique to what we would do at MSRP for Maryland. And there is, without the opt-out feature, if they go past the 90 days, they still would have the option to cease all payroll deductions, stop and start whenever they would like. And they, at any time, they could also increase their deductions and decrease their deductions. And that really was the end of the slideshow.
And I would just follow up to emphasize that it was all eligible employees who are hired after January 1st. So we're not trying to go back and make existing state employees do anything. It would be for
Yes,
the new employees who would be joining state government.
Correct.
Well, I certainly appreciate that clarification at the end. I have a few quick questions, and members, if you have some questions or concerns, please use the feature to raise your hand. A couple of things. So in the plan overview, Ms. Roberts indicated that there's a self-selection of options when we talk about fee structure and how the investments mount. So is there anything similar, or will we continue that same process going forward for folks in this plan? If SB 6 goes forward. So
I think the answer is yes. We would still have the same 4 programs in place.
Yes.
And for individuals that were auto-enroll, we would enroll them in one of those plans, and they would have an option to go back and make a decision in terms of what they wanted to enter another program. But there would be a default program that they would automatically go into.
right. Which will probably be the 457B, as Deborah was saying earlier. That tends to be the most flexible and applies to the most people. And that's the one that the board would likely recommend for auto enrollment. Yeah.
So, all right, thank you. Secondly, so if the individual, well, you're looking, well, I'm not going to speculate on what your legislation would look like coming in, but I believe it was mentioned for all employees going forward from January 1, 2025.
Correct.
Right. But one last question for me right now, Madam Chair, or anyone else, from a board configuration standpoint, when we deal with some of our plans, right now the board configuration, I believe, is a selected board of 3 non-participants and 3 who are eligible to participate. So if we're looking for, either bargaining unit members, so is there an opportunity for employees who are eligible to be voted in by members?
So at the present time, it's a 9-member board. The board is appointed by the governor. There are public members, there are members of state agencies, but basically, while we don't have a union member per se, we do have employees who represent various state agencies, including employees who come out of the Treasurer's Office, University of Maryland,
MDOT,
and at one point, the Department of Budget and Management.
Yes. So, and they
and University of Maryland system as well.
got you, and they are appointed through the process with the governor, not through a selection from a bargaining unit. Let's say, I don't want to mention any particular union, but that's how the selections are made.
Not specifically, but certainly.
I know you know what I'm talking about, but at the end of the day, so look, I am and some of us on the call are. I'm a former labor leader. I became an agency head, and so I've seen it throughout. And our system, having worked in the constitutional office, went from the state system to the supplemental system, as you're well aware, and to creating a system in our county. There's some charter counties that do that. This has nothing to do with that per se, but what it does is, the input or the membership on those particular boards had representation. So I'm just trying to gain some information on how that has been built thus far, and is there any room for a conversation going forward?
Well, we're always open to a conversation, but at the present time, as I said, these appointments are made by the governor's office. I'm sure if those individuals want to submit names of state employees who are also union members, they certainly have an opportunity to do that. We have had an opportunity to meet with one of the unions to kind of walk them through what we were doing, to kind of see what their concerns were and see how we could address those going forward. And I'm sure Rhonda and her staff has also sent something out to all of the smaller organized unions to get their input. I think so far we haven't had a great response, but Senator Jackson, we're willing to work with anybody to get this done.
I appreciate that. And my last comment is this, at the end of the day, we all, for those of us, we're budget committee folks, right? So we hear the challenges in recruiting and retention, and the mere fact of the challenges, then, the ultimate challenge is, can I retire even when I'm eligible to retire? And I think that educational piece is huge. And Ms. Roberts spoke earlier about those weekly webinars. And I think as much as we can educate our employees and employers, just a general reminder that it costs you nothing to get yourself educated on the systems and your opportunities and options going forward. So look forward to continuing to working with you all going forward. Like the concept of the bill, and look forward to us continuing to work in that vein. So Madam Chair, if you'd like to identify, it's not that many of us on here. I can keep rolling with identifying those with the hands. If you want to grab the delegates, I can do whatever you need me to do, ma'am.
So Delegate McCaskill.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Delegate Alethea McCaskill, for those who are unfamiliar with me. I do also come from a labor background, SEIU, if you will. And so, of course, when we hear concerns around pensions, when I hear concerns around pensions, and I'm hearing it often, there are many concerns. And so I know that you all met with AFSCME, and I know that I'm hoping, I ditto a lot of all of what Senator Jackson said, that I hope that we can continue to have conversations with them, because I don't believe them, and the other unions as well, because I don't believe that there was satisfactory when it came from those conversations, from what I'm gaining. Some of it was like, for instance, the fees attached, if you will. And of course, I can go through the laundry list, but I'm hoping that we can have that conversation sooner than later. And if this legislation you all want to bring back, maybe if that's not working for them, I believe they may be thinking of creating their own legislation, but we can also have talks around that. And so I'm just concerned that they still have concerns, even having talks with you all. But I'm also curious, have you all, so I know that you had the conversation with AFSCME, and you were going to be having conversations, I believe I read somewhere in the literature that was sent out about conversations with other unions. Could you share any of the feedback that you all got from them?
So I will just tell you that at the present time, we had sent out copies of our annual enrollment study, these to the AFT Healthcare Maryland, to the Maryland Professionals Employee Council, to SLEOLA, to the BWI firefighters, to the MTA police, Maryland Classified Employees Association, and the Fraternal Order of Police. For several of those, we have not had any response, but we're following up with everyone because we do want to meet with them and get their input. And if you have specific questions that the unions have raised with you, Delegate McCaskill, that you'd like for us to address, we'll be happy. I'll have the staff reach out to you to get that list so that we can at least begin to work on it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And one other note, we also reached out to Teamsters Local 355, which is Maryland Public Employees Division.
We appreciate that. And Madam Chair, for our benefit, we are a small body. If any information that you could share with us, and we'll do the same as we have employees address us regarding their concerns. So it's always better to get the concerns out of the way before we get to the table, as you know. So
I also want to just clarify with the other unions. We reached out multiple times to the ones that did not respond the first time. Those that did respond did not have any follow-up questions, did not desire to meet, and did not have any negative feedback for us. They provided the membership in terms of how many they represent, but none of them said we're against this, and none of them said, yes, we would like to meet to discuss further, and didn't have any follow-up questions for us.
thank you. Again, we want to be partners with you. If there's anyone who's not responding, let us know.
Okay,
And,
will do.
We'll that goes for any employees that are associated with our state. So Senator Benson.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yes, Senator Benson, go ahead.
She's muted.
You're on mute. You're muted. There we go. You're muted again. There you go.
Thank you very much. First of all, it sure is wonderful to see my wonderful friend, Ms. Foster. It's so great to see you, really is.
Good to see you, Senator.
It's wonderful to see you bring back such pleasant memories. The work that you have done here in the great state of Maryland is so commendable, and I want you to know that. And I love you, and I appreciate all that you have done. The question that I'm kind of, I was led to believe, and thank you, Ms. Bell, for your presentation. I thank you all for the work that you do. I was led to believe that the system for the state employees was very similar to that of the educators in the public school system. Has that changed? Because I'm unless it's changed, if you become an employee of a school system anywhere in the state of Maryland, one of the things that you're required to do is to become a member of the pension system. No longer, of course, can you be you're eligible for the retirement system, but for the pension system, you're eligible. You have to enroll. So I was just kind of wondering, and to be honest with you, one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life was to become a member of the retirement system for the great state of Maryland. So the piece of legislation that you are proposing will make it a requirement that if you are employed in the great state of Maryland, you must become a member of the pension system. Is that so?
Well, we are the supplemental retirement plan, and the pension system does have auto enrollment, and that is a 7% requirement for state employees who are eligible for the state retirement agency. So we are a supplement to that, and the legislation is going to require new hires after January 1st, 2025 to be auto-enrolled into the Supplemental Retirement Savings Program. So that's what we are. We're the smaller agency between the two.
In other words, right now, people who come into the state of Maryland automatically become a member of the retirement system.
That's correct, Senator. Yes.
So this will be a supplement to what is is the money deducted from their paychecks for the retirement program? How
Yes,
does that
ma'am.
work?
It's a payroll deduction for both the pension and for the supplemental retirement plan from
So-
Central Payroll Bureau.
So the new piece of legislation, refresh my memory on that. What does it do? It's a supplement to, it's in addition to the retirement plan.
That's correct. Yes, it's a supplemental retirement savings plan.
Okay. I wanted to be clear on that.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
All right,
You're
thank
very
you.
welcome.
And Senator Bailey, before I go to you, my co-chair has her hand raised, so I have to,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair Foster and Ms. Roberts and Ms. Bell for all the work that you put into today. I just had one question. A lot of the demographics in the report were national demographics. Does Nationwide, are they able to collect those demographics about who's participating in our process? Have you asked them for it? Or could we ask them for it going forward?
Nationwide has very limited access to that type of data because that type of data is something that would need to be shared by human resources. We might be able to get some of that from human resources, but I am not 100% sure how much. I do know, from what I understand, Nationwide can tell you salary and age, date of birth, so they can tell you that type of information. Deb, do you have anything to add there?
They have obviously their age because of the legal requirements. What they lack is their you have to assign a gender. So the person, when they put, when they set up, enroll, if they don't say what their gender is, that's blank. I know that sounds kind of strange, but
It's okay.
this is just what we're living with. The gender is missing.
Yeah.
And they have enough information for legal reasons, but the details that we would need, it would have to be paired with our workday information, which would come from DBM. So gender is missing.
Race.
Race is missing. And again, it's not one of the questions that's asked on an enrollment sheet and not really required for purposes of legal compliance. So it's Nationwide would never be put in that position to provide all of it. We'll have to work alongside other agencies to give a complete picture of the demographics.
Thank you for that explanation. I understand. It would be nice to have a good picture of who is participating now and where we need to, where we'd like to increase the enrollment. So thank you.
Well, if you don't mind me adding to that, and your point, Delegate Forbes, is extremely important, and I wanted to emphasize that it does require a lot of collaboration among agencies and their willingness to share that information. I've been with the agency for almost 2 decades, and it's very difficult for us to get that information. So sharing of information allows us to do our job better, be more efficient. So that's something that I think needs to be discussed. DBM could share more information. Central Payroll could share more information, for example, that will help us better understand who we're working with and where, and those individuals that could possibly be helped with our services.
Thank you.
That is a great question. And I'll seek counsel after, at least on the Senate side, about how we may or may not be able to get that kind of information. Senator Bailey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the last question. I definitely do think that that's very important for us to try to see what the demographics look like in Maryland. I have a question. Would the match in the bill that we passed last year, would that also apply in automatic enrollment?
Yes.
So when we look at that, if that figures into automatic enrollment, and we are going to increase the number of people significantly, over twice as much when we look at this, are the department's budgets going to reflect each department? Are they going to reflect the additional expense that this is going to cause to their budget? Or are we going to look at it as just the whole state of Maryland?
Good question.
Deb?
Do you mind me answer that?
Yep,
Let's talk
Go
in
ahead.
generic terms. Let's talk about the most recent, and I'll answer in that respect. The bill that was enacted in enacted in July, the budget does not reflect those monies. And what DPM would do was create a budget amendment and allocate that appropriation to each agency. So currently, right now, our budget does not show that match component, but it will through a budget amendment. And it is my belief that the same process would happen. So if this enrollment would be enacted, an estimate obviously would be provided from our office to the legislature. And based on that, we would have, or DBM would have, budget amendments that will be passed on along to those agencies for the cost of the match. That's my understanding.
So just in staying with a apple to apple comparison, right? I mean, if we're going to make it automatic, and so that means the match is automatic, then the departments are clearly, when they're looking at other states and other things for when they're doing recruitment drives, they're going to include this as part of the pension. This is going to be part of your benefit for coming here. And so the whole thing is, when we're looking at it as the budget committee, right? I just want to make sure that if we're doing this across the board, that we should be able to look at each department and say, okay, this is the expense that we have created. And I just want to make sure we capture that, because when we look at, different departments, there's some that this will affect greatly because they have more employees.
That's correct. It is a separate line item on the budget. It is a separate line item on the budget, which we've clearly delineated when the budget information is transmitted to the legislative office for review during the session. So yes, you will clearly see exactly how much monies will be allocated for the match by department, by agency, even by program, if my understanding is correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Senator. So again, I mentioned this a number of times. We're your partners. We certainly want to find the best way to do what's best for our employees. So, we are willing to work with you to try to find out and try to reach out to the agencies to find out what the numbers are and where we need to have further outreach. So we'll commit to that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Again, I want to thank you for, inviting us. We're all, I think, on the same page in terms of we want to do things that are going to be beneficial to state employees. We want to make sure that when they retire from the state of Maryland, that they are able to live comfortably. And I think what this program does is gives them another option to have some additional income. So we'll be circling back to see whether we can get answers to some of the questions you've raised, and to follow up and get the questions that were brought to you by the unions and try to get answers to those. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And for members, if you have any additional information, get it to your respective chair and we will get it to council so we can continue. If there are no more comments or questions, I'm going to hand it over to Philip for next steps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have 2 more meetings this interim. The next meeting is going to be November 16th, Thursday at 2 p.m. That'll be the annual and actuarial evaluation presentation from the systems actuary, and then the board requested legislation. And then the December meeting will be on Thursday, December 7th at 2 p.m. And I'll be presenting the annual investment overview. And at that point, the committee will have its decisions on proposed legislation.
All right. Anyone else?
And also, sorry, the both remaining meetings will also be virtual.
All right. Anything else, anyone? Madam Chair, Ms. Roberts, Ms. Bell, Thank you all so much for enlightening us via the hard copies we have, but also taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. For Miss Ann and Martin, thank you all for hanging out with us. And members, if you need anything, make sure you reach out. And we're going to conclude this session. Thank you all very much. Madam Chair, you have anything before we leave?
Thank you. It was our pleasure.
All right,
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
Senator Benson.